At my art showcase, not a single family member walked through the door. Later, I saw their photos, a backyard barbecue without me. But as I took down my work, the gallery owner handed me a contract and whispered, "Your life's about to change." That night, my parents called 71 times. Before answering, I made a decision. I didn't expect a parade. I wasn't hoping for flowers or balloons or even a congratulations sign taped to the wall with painter's tape. All I wanted, really, all I ever wanted, was for them to show up. It was my first major exhibition. Not some student showcase in a church basement, or a pop-up street event where people sip cheap wine and pretend to care. This was different. Months of planning, years of sacrifice. The gallery was a repurposed warehouse in East Downtown Houston, where the walls were tall, white, and clean. Industrial lights hung above, casting the perfect shadows on the textured strokes I'd poured my soul into. Dylan West, Fragments of Silence. That title had lived in my head for over a year before I even put brush to canvas. My show was about the quiet things people don't say, their avoidance, their doubt, their silence when you need them loudest. It was supposed to be the night my family finally saw me. I'd sent the invites 6 weeks in advance. Followed up 3 times. Called, messaged, texted. I even stopped by my parents' house 2 weekends before and showed them a printed flyer. My mom nodded like she was interested. My dad barely looked up from his phone. I told myself they'd come. Maybe not all of them, maybe not right on time, but they'd come. They had to. The place started to fill up by 6:45. Jesse and Mark, my cousins from the north side, were the first to walk in. They hugged me like they knew the weight I was carrying. Old classmates I hadn't seen in years showed up too, complimenting the colors, the stories, and the brushwork. My high school art teacher stood near one piece for 15 minutes, and then pulled me aside to say he always knew I had something real. People asked questions. Took photos. Even a journalist from a local culture magazine interviewed me near one of my larger works. There were handshakes, smiles, even laughter. But every few minutes, my eyes would drift back to the door. Nothing. Not my mom. Not my dad. Not either of my brothers. Not my sister. Not even a maybe. By 7:30, I stepped out into the alley behind the gallery just to breathe. My phone buzzed. For a second I thought, maybe a text, maybe they're stuck in traffic. But no. It was a tag on social media. I opened Instagram. My sister's story loaded first. Grill smoke. My dad flipping burgers in their backyard. The sound of country music in the background. A table set with red Solo cups and potato salad. My younger brother tossing a football to his son. Laughter. Warm light. A casual, full-blown family barbecue. No one had mentioned it to me. Not once. There I stood, alone in a dusty alley behind the biggest night of my life, watching my family throw a party I hadn't even been invited to. I didn't cry. I didn't get angry. I just walked back in and got through the rest of the evening. I smiled. I answered questions. I shook hands with buyers. A few of the smaller pieces sold before the night was even over. I stayed professional. Numb, but composed. At 9:12, the last guest left. I began taking down some of the unsold works, wrapping the edges in soft cloth. That's when Maya, the gallery owner, came up to me quietly. She handed me a plain manila envelope and said 6 words I hadn't expected to hear from anyone that night. "Your life's about to change, Dylan." She didn't elaborate, just walked away. I didn't open the envelope right then. I just stared at it while sitting on a crate near the door, surrounded by empty wine glasses and the lingering smell of paint and perfume. When I finally made it home around 10:30, I tossed my keys on the counter and plugged in my phone. That's when I saw it. 71 missed calls. Most of them from my parents. A few from my siblings. My voicemail icon lit up like it was on fire. The last message was just 10 minutes old. I didn't listen to any of them. Instead, I opened the envelope Maya gave me. What was inside would change everything. The envelope felt heavier than it should have. Not physically, just in that way certain moments carry weight. I opened it slowly, like I was unsealing something permanent. Inside was a neatly stapled contract. 8 pages. Gallery representation year-round. My own space. Scheduled solo exhibitions. Promotion, press, access to collectors. A financial breakdown that made my throat tighten. Then I saw the handwritten note at the bottom of the last page. Just a few words in Maya's sharp, clean handwriting. "You're not just good, Dylan. You're the real thing. Let's show them." I read the entire thing twice before signing. I didn't hesitate. I didn't think about whether it was too soon, or if I was ready. I just signed it. And the second I did, I felt something inside me close, like a quiet door had finally shut. I set the papers aside, leaned back on the edge of the mattress in my tiny apartment, and finally looked at my phone. 71 missed calls. Almost all from family. I didn't touch the voicemail. I didn't need to hear what I already knew. I turned the phone over and let it buzz itself into silence. I didn't sleep that night. Around midnight I walked the 2 blocks to my studio and let myself in. The place still smelled like turpentine and primer. I grabbed a fresh canvas, didn't sketch anything, didn't plan, just started throwing paint. It wasn't a piece for anyone. Not for a gallery, not for sale. Just a purge. Pure chaos. By morning, I had something ugly, fast, loud. And I left it exactly as it was. Hung it backwards against the wall, and turned off the lights. By noon, my decision was made. I wasn't explaining myself to anyone. That afternoon, I posted a thank you on Instagram. One photo from the show, me standing beside the quietest room, the piece that had taken me the longest to finish. The caption was a list of names. People who came. People who believed in me. I tagged them all. My cousins, my barber, my art teacher, a few fellow artists, even one of my high school classmates who drove in from 2 towns over. I thanked them individually. I didn't mention my family at all. 2 hours later, I got a message from my cousin Jessie. She said my mom had called her, asking weird questions. Trying to figure out who was there, what the contract meant, whether I'd sold anything. Then she added, "Your mom was crying on the phone." I think they finally realized they messed up. I stared at that message for a long time. That night, my dad left me a voicemail. I didn't listen to it, but I read the transcript. He said they didn't think it was going to be such a big deal. That they'd already promised to host that barbecue. That they didn't realize it would matter so much to me. The line that stuck out was, "If we had known you were serious about this, we would have made time." That was it. Right there. If. As if the years I spent painting in that uninsulated garage didn't count. As if the nights I worked until my wrists ached weren't serious. As if my whole life chasing this thing was just a hobby until someone else decided it was real. So I didn't respond. Not to him, not to my sister when she tried to guilt me later that week, not to the family group chat where someone finally dropped a half-hearted "Congrats, Dylan." I said nothing. Because for the first time, I didn't need them to see me. Other people already did. A week later, the gallery posted the official announcement. My name, front and center. Photos of the show. Maya standing next to me. The caption said, "Welcoming Dylan West as our newest represented artist. His work is going global." That's when the messages really started. Old friends from high school. A few people I hadn't heard from in years. Artists asking to collaborate. A gallery in Austin invited me to join a group show. Then another email came through, from a contemporary art museum in New York. And my family? They tried a different tactic. My sister sent me a message about her friend who wanted help launching a design brand. My younger brother asked if I could sponsor his music project. My parents mentioned the mortgage being tight this month. Suddenly, they all remembered my number. But I remembered something too. They hadn't just missed one night. They'd missed the whole climb. It didn't take long for the tone of their messages to shift. First came the light, indirect ones. "Hey, proud of you," from my older brother, as if we'd ever talked about my art without him joking that I should get a real job. Then my sister sent me an Instagram post of someone who wanted custom artwork, asking if I had time. No context. No acknowledgement of the night they skipped. Just a casual question like nothing had happened. Then the real messages started coming in. My mom sent a long text about how proud she was and how she always knew I'd find my way. She said they just assumed it was a small local thing, nothing serious, and that they had already promised family friends they'd host the barbecue that night. She used the word misunderstanding twice. She asked if I'd come by for dinner soon so they could hear all about it. My dad called again 2 days later and left a message saying maybe I could help him with something. His coworker's son wanted to get into the art world, and thought I'd be a good person to talk to. That same day, my younger brother sent me a voice memo. He said he needed a small loan for a music video he was trying to shoot, just a few $100 to book a venue and rent gear. He said it would mean a lot coming from family. I didn't respond to any of them. I was done trying to explain to people who had never once clapped for me when I had nothing. I wasn't going to give anyone the chance to act like they'd been there all along. Instead, I forwarded some of my earnings from the first set of sales to Jesse and Mark, my cousins who came early and stayed late at the opening. I sent a handwritten thank you note to Mr. Lewis, my old art teacher, with a small framed print of the quietest room. I posted a few behind-the-scenes shots from my studio, tagging the friends who helped stretch canvas and prep walls. One of them commented, "You've always had it. They just didn't look hard enough." And still, the calls kept coming. 71 missed calls that first night. Then more each week. Texts asking why I was being distant. Messages hinting that I was letting success go to my head. My sister even sent me a guilt trip saying, "You know we love you. You're just being dramatic." Dramatic. That word sat in my throat like a splinter. Because that's what they always said. Whenever I tried to speak up, whenever I wanted something from them, support, attention, space, they'd roll their eyes and tell me I was being too sensitive. Too intense. Too much. Now suddenly, I wasn't enough. Or more accurately, I was too much in the wrong way. Too successful. Too unavailable. Too selective about where my time and money went. But the truth was, my time wasn't free anymore. People were flying me out for meetings. Galleries were booking me months in advance. I was being asked to speak on panels, to write about my process, to explain how silence and rejection shaped my work. And I told the truth. Always. Not the version that made me sound noble, but the one that made people lean in. I told them about watching the door at my first real exhibition. About checking my phone and seeing my family laughing around a grill while my future unfolded without them. That silence, their absence, that was part of my work now. It lived in the brushstrokes. It bled through the textures. And still, they didn't get it. My dad left another voicemail that week. This time he didn't ask for anything. He just said, "We've all made mistakes. Don't forget who your family is." But that was the thing. I hadn't forgotten. I just finally accepted it. I thought eventually, they'd fall back into their old pattern, ignoring me until there was something to mock. That was the cycle for years. Whenever something good happened, they'd disappear. Whenever I struggled, they'd offer half-hearted advice, always laced with condescension. I never expected them to push harder after I stopped responding. But I was wrong. A little over 2 months after signing with the gallery, my work started moving. Fast. Collectors from out of state were sending offers. One woman from Dallas bought 4 pieces outright and commissioned 2 more. I had a virtual meeting with a curator from London. Berlin reached out with an invitation to show in the spring. Maya was working on press with an international art magazine. It was like the years of rejection had suddenly been rewound and replaced with acceleration. I was in the studio finishing a layered oil piece when someone knocked on the door. Not the buzzer, an actual knock. I assumed it was Maya or someone from the gallery. But it was my mom. She stood there holding a casserole dish, wearing the same expression she always had when she needed something, half soft, half calculated. I hadn't seen her in person since before the show. I opened the door, and without asking, she stepped inside and set the dish down on my work table, just inches from a still wet canvas. She started talking like we were in the middle of a conversation. Said she'd been meaning to visit. Said she regretted missing the gallery night. That she hadn't realized how important it really was. Then, after a brief pause, she said they had something they wanted to share with me. Not an apology. Not a question. Just a shift. Apparently, they were planning to open a boutique store. West & Company. A family-run space that would feature handmade goods, local creators, sustainable brands. She said it could be a legacy business. That I would be the heart of it. My artwork would draw people in. That they'd build the store around my identity. Paintings, merchandise, even prints. Said my success could finally help lift everyone. Then came the ask. They wanted an investment. A seed fund. Just a small portion. 10, maybe 15,000. My mom said it would mean a lot if I could contribute. Not just financially, but by giving the business some credibility with my name attached. I didn't move. I didn't sit. I didn't ask a single question. She stood there waiting for a response I wouldn't give. Eventually, she picked up the dish and said she hoped I'd think about it. The next day, my older brother sent a PDF proposal to my email. Full business plan. Slides, projections, logo concepts. Clean design. They'd clearly put time into it. There was even a mocked-up flyer with my name in the center, featuring the works of Dylan West. I forwarded it to Maya. 10 minutes later, she called me. All she said was, "Do you want to handle this, or should I?" I told her to go ahead. 2 days later, a cease and desist was sent. Any attempt to use my name, likeness, or creative property without a written licensing agreement would trigger legal action. I thought that would scare them off. Instead, they doubled down. My sister sent a long, furious voice memo. Said I was being cruel. That I had finally made it, and now I was acting like they never mattered. She said if I didn't want to be part of the family, they'd move forward without me. She accused me of thinking I was better than them. That success had twisted me. Then came my dad. Left a voicemail that started calm and ended with something I never thought I'd hear. He said, "You're not the only talented one in this family. Don't forget, you're just lucky. Someone else could have had your shot if they'd been handed the same chances." That part stuck in my head. Handed. As if all those nights on the floor of my studio, all those years of no heat, selling paintings at flea markets, getting rejected by dozens of galleries, were just luck. Then the final blow came. A single group text from my mom to me, my brothers, and my sister. It said, "If Dylan wants to live like a stranger, let's treat him like one." That was it. No more calls. No more requests. No more guilt-laced manipulation. Just total, cold silence. But it wasn't painful anymore. I kept waiting for the regret to creep in. For the loneliness. For the pull of family to start gnawing at me again. It never came. All I felt was relief. Peace in a way I'd never experienced before. Not because they were gone, but because I was finally free. The silence wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic. It just settled. A week passed. Then 2. No calls, no texts, no forwarded emails pretending to be checking in. They vanished like they had never been part of my story at all. I half expected to feel some hollow ache from their absence, but it never came. I was too busy finally breathing. My world kept moving forward. Fast. Berlin sent over the final itinerary. My piece was opening their winter exhibit, and they'd booked my flight, hotel, even arranged for a translator. New York confirmed the 2-artist show. I was headlining beside a sculptor from Seoul whose work I'd studied for years. A feature in Modern Art Review hit newsstands, and they called me the artist who paints silence so loud it echoes. The irony didn't miss me. I started getting real offers, partnerships, licensing deals, high-profile commissions. Maya and I expanded the gallery's online presence, and we were shipping to Singapore, Amsterdam, Dubai. I had to hire help just to keep up with the inventory. My life was unrecognizable from the one I lived 6 months earlier. And the clearer it became that my family had been holding me back, the more I thought about the people who never did. Jesse and Mark. The 2 who'd shown up without needing to be asked. Who sat through my whole gallery night, bought a piece even though I knew they couldn't afford it, and cheered for me louder than anyone else. The ones who didn't flinch when I had nothing to offer. The ones who believed before it was convenient. So I called them. I didn't tell them what I was planning, just asked if they were free to fly to New York for my upcoming show. They said yes before I finished asking. I booked their flights, covered their hotel, sent them the full itinerary. When they landed, I picked them up myself and took them to dinner in Brooklyn. At the restaurant, I handed them each a simple envelope. Inside was paperwork that gave them small but permanent shares in a new print series I was launching with Maya. Exclusive, limited editions for collectors. Their names were listed as co-owners of the venture. A piece of everything I earned from it would go to them, for life. Mark just stared at the papers, speechless. Jessie teared up. She asked why. I told her the truth, because when I was broke, painting in a garage that smelled like mildew, you didn't laugh. You asked how you could help. That means more than any bloodline. We toasted to the ones who stayed. Meanwhile, the rest of the family fell into this strange, passive silence. Not real distance, just the illusion of it. I saw my sister's vague Instagram captions. The ones that said funny how people change and some folks forget where they came from. I got a notification one night that my mom had refollowed me, but she never liked a single post. Just watched. Quietly. Then came the email from my dad. No hello. No subject line. Just a few short lines. You made your point. You got what you wanted. But you should be ashamed of turning your back on the people who raised you. I didn't reply. I didn't even finish reading it. Because what he didn't understand, what none of them understood, was that I never wanted to make a point. I wasn't chasing some cold revenge. I wasn't cutting ties to teach a lesson. All I ever wanted was for them to care. Genuinely. Not when it was convenient. Not when they thought there was money to be made. Not when everyone else suddenly cared too. But they didn't. Not when it counted. So I gave my time, my energy, my success to the people who did. I sponsored a grant at my old high school for emerging artists, named it after Mr. Lewis. I sent a surprise payment to an old friend who'd once helped cover my studio rent when I was behind. I let 2 local kids use my space for a photo shoot and ended up mentoring them for free. Every dollar I spent helping someone who believed in me was one more brick between me and the people who didn't. And every show I booked, every collector who added me to their private vault, every flight to another city where my art was being displayed, I felt more and more untethered from them. Not in bitterness. In freedom. Because what they never realized was that they weren't the ones who made me. Their absence did. The New York show didn't feel like a show. It felt like a pivot point. From the moment the doors opened, it was like the air changed. Collectors I had only seen in headlines shook my hand. 2 critics from major publications asked to interview me. Maya kept whispering updates throughout the night. Who bought what, who reserved what, who asked for private appointments. By the end of the second hour, over half of my displayed pieces had red dots next to them. One collector from Singapore asked if I ever took on private commissions. I told him I might, depending on the subject. But even with all that happening, press, sales, recognition, something in the room felt off. Like a corner of the evening was folding in on itself. Attention behind the noise. I felt it before I saw him. I was standing near the central installation, mid-conversation with a gallery owner from Berlin, when I caught the movement in my peripheral. A figure. Tall. Standing at the far wall, half hidden near the catering table, just out of reach of the spotlight. My stomach turned before my mind could catch up. It was my father. I hadn't seen him in person since before the gallery night in Houston. He looked older, thinner maybe, but the stance was the same, shoulders back, face unreadable. He wasn't mingling. Wasn't drinking. Just watching. Watching me, watching the room, watching my name in big black letters above the centerpiece wall. He stayed there for maybe 60 seconds. Maybe less. Then, just like that, he turned and walked out through the side door. Didn't speak. Didn't make eye contact. Didn't leave a word. And for the second time in my life, I watched him walk away from something that should have mattered. I didn't follow. I didn't tell Maya. I didn't even write about it in my journal that night. But I didn't forget it. The next morning, as we were wrapping up final details and reviewing sales figures, Maya handed me an envelope. A plain one. No gallery branding, no address, just Dylan written in firm, clean handwriting. I thought for a second it was from my dad. But it wasn't. Inside was an old photo. Me, around 14, standing in our backyard holding my first finished painting. I remembered that day like a scar. My mom in the background looking off somewhere else. My dad mid-call. My siblings not in the frame at all. It looked like a moment of celebration, if you didn't know what was missing. There was no note inside. Just the photo. No explanation. No apology. But it wasn't random. That was the thing. Because it wasn't just a reminder. It was a warning. My sister had sent it. I knew it in my gut. She was always subtle with her messages, but this was something different. She knew exactly what that picture would do to me. It wasn't nostalgia. It was a reminder that they still remembered what they chose to ignore. And maybe, deep down, she knew I was working on something they wouldn't be able to ignore forever. Back in my hotel that night, I unpacked the quietest room. I'd bought it back from the Paris collector weeks ago without telling anyone. I hung it across from the bed and sat on the floor, staring at it like I was waiting for it to speak. That piece wasn't just my breakthrough. It was my beginning. And now, I knew what had to come next. One final show. Not in Houston. Not in New York. Not Berlin or Paris or anywhere they could hide behind distance or timing. It would be something different. Something private. One night. Select invitations. A location they wouldn't expect. Just the people who mattered, and maybe one or two who didn't know they did. The centerpiece of that show? A painting no one had seen. Not even Maya. It had lived under layers for years. Hidden under primer, beneath canvases I never sold. It wasn't abstract. It wasn't metaphor. It was clear, direct, personal. A story frozen in color. I'd worked on it slowly, bit by bit, like stitching a wound I knew I'd eventually have to reopen. I hadn't named it yet, but I would. And when that painting was revealed, it would say everything I never had the chance to. About what was done, what was denied, what was finally mine. The story isn't over. Not yet. Because the night I opened that show, someone else came through the door. And this time, they didn't come alone. The space was nothing like the others. No wine, no velvet ropes, no press wall. Just a quiet, converted loft in a small town outside Santa Fe. The guest list was handpicked. No sponsors. No media. Just people who had mattered along the way. My high school art teacher, Jesse and Mark, Maya, a few artists I'd mentored, and a few collectors who understood that this wasn't about money. The show was called Unspoken. One night only. One painting. The gallery lights were dimmed. A single spotlight framed the canvas in the center, covered by a black cloth. No title on the wall. No description. Just stillness. I waited until everyone was inside, then stepped forward and pulled the cloth off. Gasps. Then silence. The painting was unmistakable. My family's backyard. The night of the barbecue. Not imagined, accurate. Down to the folding chairs, the grill, the solo cups. My mother holding a plate mid-laugh. My father leaning against the porch railing, beer in hand. My siblings around a table. Everyone smiling. Everyone there, except me. But in the painting, there was a shadow in the corner. Faint. Watching through the slats of the wooden fence. That shadow was me. And beside me in the painting, just barely visible, was a second figure. A boy. Small. Unclear. Not fully formed. No one asked about it. But everyone saw it. I said nothing. Just let the room breathe it in. As the evening wound down, guests left quietly, some with tears, others with a simple nod. Jesse and Mark stayed behind to help close up. Maya stood next to me, arms folded, not saying a word. She didn't need to. Right before I turned off the lights, I looked toward the guest book by the door. Someone had signed it last. In tight, clean handwriting it said, "For the boy who saw everything." I'm sorry I didn't. There was no name. But I knew. And just before I locked the door, I glanced out the window. A man was walking away down the street. Alone. Slowly. And beside him, a boy followed. Same height. Same stride. Neither one looked back.